What's happening? A good Friday to all of you, and this is an Autopsy Friday, my friends. We have to get through this together. We need to walk through that game last night, break down what went so wrong. How was I wrong? How were the Patriots wrong? It was a brutal, brutal Thursday night football game between the Patriots and the Jets that we all witnessed. The Jets mollywhopped the Patriots 24-3. We'll get into the game in just a couple of seconds, but first, don't forget to give us that thumbs up. More thumbs means more eyeballs on the YouTube channel. Always looking to create the quote-unquote engagement for the YouTube peeps. Don't forget to give us that thumbs up. Don't forget to comment on this episode, and don't forget to subscribe. We are less than 100 subscribers away from hitting the 1,000 mark. So let's keep the positive vibes as far as the channel goes by liking, commenting, and subscribing. My friends at Spotify, Apple Pods, rate and review. All right. There really wasn't much redeeming about the game last night. Let's all be honest about it. Maybe the fact that Pop Douglas got more involved, 7 catches, 69 yards. That was nice to see. It also confirms the fact that the Patriots do have ways to get Pop Douglas the football, even when the offensive line is an atrocity, which it was last night. We'll get to that. But this idea of, it's really tough to get Pop the ball because, Brissett holds on to it forever and the offensive line is so bad. No. 7 catches, 69 yards last night. You can get the football to Pop Douglas. Let me start with the end of the game. Let me start with Jerod Mayo's decision to play Drake May in that game last night. I don't know why the decision was made. It made absolutely zero sense to me. You can try to fight back and say, it's to get Drake May reps. It's to get him experience. What did you do last night? What did you do for Drake May? You throw him out in a game. Doesn't make any sense to me when your offensive line has given up 7 sacks and 16 quarterback hits. I mean, it's just constant, nonstop pressure on the quarterback. Hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. An absolutely obnoxious amount of hits Jacoby Brissett took last night. And you decide in a game you're down by 3 touchdowns, you decide to throw the future of the organization out there with like 4 minutes left. For what? For what? I hated the decision by Jerod Mayo to throw May out there. Not only did your offensive line look as bad as you could possibly imagine that it would look last night, you also, during that game, lost your starting left guard, Michael Jordan, in that game, and you lost Caden Wallace, who by my count is the now 3rd left tackle that you have tried in that spot. You lost 2 of the 5 starting offensive linemen that you had last night after already losing multiple offensive linemen that were supposed to start this season for you. With that banged up, lost offensive line, you decided to put May out there. I thought that was ridiculous. I thought it was borderline irresponsible by the coaching staff. 2 practice squad call-up guys on the offensive line with May out there. A rookie right guard in Layden Robinson, who's having his ups and downs. That's the offensive line that you want protecting your quarterback last night? I don't understand it. I hated it. I hated it last night. I hated it this morning. And I hate it at 3:04 Eastern on this Friday, September 20th, 2024. Did not like that decision at all by the coaching staff. And that's on Mayo. What's the risk reward? Ask yourself that. What is the risk reward by playing May in a game like that? Down 3 touchdowns. The Jets were still getting after him. The Jets were still getting after the quarterback late in that game. What is the risk reward by throwing him out there? It's just nonsense. It was nonsense. What did Drake May gain last night from playing? What did he gain? Okay, he found Pop Douglas on an in-breaking route. Fantastic. He scampered for a first down. Awesome. He also got hit 2 or 3 times. He was sacked twice, and he got practically speared into the turf. Now, I know it didn't happen, but when I talk about risk reward, when I try to figure out why you would play Drake May under those circumstances last night, that made no sense. What would I do? You know what I would do? Jacoby Brissett would be out there and he'd be handing the football off. Take the snap, hand it off, punt it away. You're not winning that game. You're down 3 touchdowns. It makes zero sense to put anybody at risk more than they are already at risk. So send Brissett out there, take snaps, hand it off, get off the field. That's what should have been done in the end of that game. But instead, you've got May. Everything about this offseason was about Drake May. The future of this franchise is certainly on Drake May to a point. And you put him out there in that situation, and he takes what was practically a spear, if you're a wrestling fan, down to the turf. Now, just imagine if Drake May got hurt on that hit. And I'm not telling you that you got to handle Drake May with kid gloves. There are spots that you could put him in. I get it. But down 3 touchdowns with the offensive line suffering so many injuries, your O-line can't protect anybody right now, and you put him out there in that spot, just hand the ball off. Don't be a hard-o. Don't overcoach. Put Brissett out there and get it done. You lost the game, Gerard. We'll see you next week. And Drake May's out there taking unnecessary hits. What if Drake May gets hurt on that spear last night? Late in a fourth quarter when you're down 3 touchdowns, now you're going to put Brissett back out there. Now you got Brissett who's taking hit after hit. What happens if Brissett's hurt next week because you decided to play Drake May last night? Now what do you have? You've got a banged up Drake May, maybe a hurt Drake May, a hurt Jacoby Brissett. Here we go, Joe Milton. It was nonsense. Nonsense. Just run the clock out. Also this. If you're going to play May, then let the young man run the offense and try to get in the end zone. You put him out there because you're telling us that it's meaningful for him to be out there. But then you tap out. You don't call timeouts. You don't go for a touchdown. So what is the freaking point? Did you just want to see Drake May drive down 40, 50 yards so you could feel good about it? It's just absurd. If you're going to put May out there and you're saying, we're going to make this meaningful time, then make the most of the time. But you don't call the timeouts, I guess, because Drake May got his helmet ripped off and he's shaking his head towards the end of the game. So maybe you got frightened into finally tapping out. And this is a problem that we've seen with Gerard Mayo so far, right? I don't think Mayo's done a terrible job. I don't. But one thing that's bothered me with Mayo through the first 3 games of this season is he seems to not choose a path. You go back to the Seattle game, end of the first half. He runs on a first down, right? We're going to run on a first down, which would tell you we're going to just let this clock run out and we'll see it in the third quarter. But then you throw on the next 2 downs. Seattle saves their timeouts. Seattle ends up scoring a field goal at the end of the first half. Pick a lane. Are you going to be aggressive and throw the football, or are you going to run the clock out? Last night, are you going to play it like it's a real football game, throw May out there and say, let's see if this young man can get us in the end zone. Let's give him a shot with some timeouts and to run a quick offense. Or are you not playing to score a touchdown? Because if you're not playing to score a touchdown, then why even throw him out there in the first place? Just run the football with Brissett and call it a night. And it feels like I'm coaching by the seat of my pants. It's what it feels like in some of these instances. You have to be decisive. Pick a lane and stay in that lane. Just don't get it. Terry jumps in with a $9.99 super chat. Thank you, Terry. Kyle says he cannot send a super chat test. Well, test passed. Terry paid $10 for a super chat test. Kyle, you should pay Terry the $10. That is on you, Kyle. It's very nice of you, Terry, to try to send that to send that super chat. Super chats work. You can send one just like Terry did. And as you watch the show, you can also give us that thumbs up on YouTube, which is critical to the process. Try to slap that algorithm in the face. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's continue. Let's continue to build this alternative here in New England. Mayo in the postgame last night said, well, I don't know who the quarterback is going to be next week. This morning, he kind of changed, right? This morning, he said, Jacoby Brissett is our quarterback until I say he's not our quarterback. And he also told the media that the reps at practice were going to stick with 70-30, Brissett getting 70% of the snaps. And, of course, you have May getting 30% of the snaps. No change at quarterback. Let's get to the long list of issues last night, shall we? You got to start with the offensive line. Putrid. Putrid. No other definition. No other word I don't think would define it. Maybe you could say horrific. Maybe you could say embarrassing. Maybe you could say torturous to watch. And City So's hurt. Fedarian Lowe is hurt. Caden Wallace got hurt last night. Michael Jordan got hurt last night. Chooks unexpectedly left due to mental health. Might not play football ever again. So he's gone. And guys are just dropping like flies. You cannot find any consistency on this offensive line. The offensive line that you wanted to start at the beginning of the season, you never had a chance to do it. City So's been out the entire year. Fedarian Lowe's been on and off the field. Chooks, again, he leaves because of his situation, which, by the way, I'm not going to get all over Chooks. I know some people want to crush Chooks. They want to go after Chooks. I stay away from the mental health stuff. I am not comfortable criticizing somebody when it comes to mental health. I don't know what Chooks Okorafor is going through. I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I don't know if he's had issues before this year with his mental health. I am not going to pass judgment on him. And I don't believe Elliott Wolf had any idea that Chooks Okorafor before the third week of the season was going to tap out. If he did, he wouldn't have signed him. So Chooks is gone, out of your control. These injuries are mounting. And so now you're left with a bunch of backups and practice squad guys. You got Michael Onwenu playing right tackle. He had his second straight bad week. He was not good last night. Again, Onwenu not playing good enough at tackle. And now you start to think about moving him back to right guard. He has been a solid tackle in his career. But the last 2 weeks, they got me shook. I am shook. And I'm not comfortable continuing with Onwenu at tackle when you get healthy, if you get healthy. Because the problem is he needs to play somewhere. You have more interior offensive linemen than you have tackles right now, so you got to play Onwenu at tackle. But if you can get Fedarian Lowe back, and Caden Wallace's knee injury isn't that bad, and it's not something that's going to cost him weeks, I would put Onwenu back at right guard. I would put Wallace at right tackle. I would put Lowe at left tackle. I'd put Layden Robinson at left guard. You got Andrews at center. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. Now, this offensive line, next-gen statistics. This offensive line last night, this is a crazy number. Gave up 22 pressures on 35 dropbacks. That's not NFL football. That's not even college football. That's not even high school football. I'm not even sure that's JV football. 62.8% of the dropbacks last night, quarterback was pressured. Nobody played well up front that I saw. David Andrews got trucked by Quinnen Williams. Wallace looked like a rookie, up and down, up and down, up and down, which is what you would expect, especially when he's not a left tackle by nature and you wanted to try to develop him, and now you've got to throw him out there because of all the other things that are going on, like Lowe and Chooks. So you're stuck throwing him out there probably too early to play left tackle. So you got rookies, you got practice squad guys, you got guys that aren't healthy. It's a cluster bleep. You're not going to win a football game when you give up almost 63% of pressure. You're just not going to. No team in football would be able to withstand that. It's bad. It's bad right now. And I don't know how you can be optimistic about the offensive line when guys just keep getting hurt. And now you're relying on dudes who are, third string, fourth string. Nobody in the NFL wants to rely on a third string or fourth string tackle. That's a nightmare. But here we are. So the offensive line was trash. You know who else had a bad night last night? Alex Van Pelt. I take pride in previewing games. And I take pride in looking into the numbers and watching games back and trying to give everybody that watches or listens to this podcast an idea as to what to expect before a game kicks off. Cincinnati, we were pretty much dead on. Seattle, we were pretty much dead on. Before this game last night on Wednesday's podcast, I outlined what I thought we would see offensively. And what I thought we would see offensively is what we had seen through the first 2 weeks of the season. Run the football down the throat of the defense. We thought this team had an offensive identity. It's not sexy, but at least it was an identity. And that identity was running the football with Ramondre Stevenson. The offensive line has not been good protecting the quarterback, but the O-line has been good running the football. The Jets defense going into last night's game was not good against the run. They were 23rd in run defense in DVOA. I gave you other stats on Wednesday's podcast that proved the Jets had not done a great job against the run, especially against San Francisco in week 1, which is an offense that is pretty close to what you want to do under Alex Van Pelt. Everything lined up to run the ball last night. Your strength offensively was their weakness defensively. And what did we see? We did not see the Patriots run the football down the throat of the Jets. I talked about get ready for the Patriots to establish the run. It is an advantage. Ramondre Stevenson had 4 carries in the first half. I don't know in what world, after watching this offense the first 2 weeks, I don't know in what world, what galaxy, what universe, I don't know what you are thinking. If you're Alex Van Pelt and you walk into that game last night after what your offense had done the first 2 weeks of the season, knowing that your offensive line was dealing with multiple injuries and that you were relying on a rookie left tackle playing for the first time on that side of the ball, starting for the first time on that side of the ball, I don't know how in the world you go into that game last night and say, we're going to throw the football to start the game off. I have no idea how Alex Van Pelt walked into last night's game thinking, we're going to throw. We're going to start with our play action, with our long developing plays. That's the perfect way to start against a team that has a great pass rush, and we have no idea what we have up front. I'll continue in a minute. Get a super chat from G-Reg. $5 super chat. Thank you, G-Reg. Our O-line horrors are clear. My new concern is how horribly our defense regressed. Missed tackles on every play. On to the 2025 draft. Aloha from Maui. Oh, I hope Maui is good to you, G-Reg. I hope you're enjoying Maui. We'll get to the defense because I got my problems with DeMarcus Covington too. Trust me. In the defense, there were some big-time issues last night. There were some issues last night, and now there are some trends that are concerning. So we'll get to the defense. Thank you, G-Reg. I understand your concern about that side of the football. Kyle Kirk jumps in, $10 super chat. AVP showed his ass. Mayo throwing May out there was a horrible mistake that is hard to forgive. This was the most discouraging game. It was discouraging. Now, I try not to get too high. I try not to get too low. I wasn't throwing a parade after beating Cincinnati in Cincinnati. I'm certainly not going to sit here and just say that the rest of this season is an absolute loss. Maybe it ends up being that way. But I don't want to sit here and suffer through the next 14 games with this team. We take the good, we take the bad. It's like the facts of life. But it's tough. After last night, it's obviously tough to sit here and try to put lipstick on the pig. I'm not going to try to put lipstick on the pig. That was that game. Because I'm not disingenuous. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to break this team down. I'm going to criticize. I'm going to say the O-line sucked when it sucked. I'm going to tell you that Alex Van Pelt did show his ass when he did that last night. And I'm going to sit here and criticize DeMarcus Covington in a few minutes, just like I started this podcast by criticizing Gerard Mayo. for that horrible decision playing Drake May last night in the fourth quarter of a 3-touchdown game. In due time, Covington will get his. Thank you, Kyle, for the $10 super chat. It is much appreciated. Those watching, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. So you go into the game, and I'm saying this is an advantage for you to run the football. Stevenson has 4 carries in the first half. You don't run the ball. You don't move the ball. You do nothing on offense in the first half. You go to halftime with an 11-point deficit, which, by the way, was a miracle. I have no idea. You were only down by 11 points at half last night. You should have been down by 3 touchdowns at least. That's how bad you did on both sides of the ball. Brutal. But you had a miracle. You're down 11, and you're getting the football to start the second half. You had a chance. But AVP had a bad night. An absolutely bad night. And what drove me crazy, if you thought that I was frustrated last night watching that, I was even more frustrated. I got to the point of being infuriated this morning when I read on the good old Twitter machine that Alex Van Pelt spoke to the media today. And he said something that made me look around and try to figure out what the hell, where am I? What am I doing and where am I? What's happening? Mike Reese posted this morning. Van Pelt explained that the team's success running the ball the first 2 weeks led to him calling more play-action passing plays early in the game last night. Van Pelt says in hindsight, he would have flipped that and called more runs early. All right. I'm torn on this because part of me is happy because I feel like I'm not going crazy. I feel like I gave all of you the right information on Wednesday's podcast when I said they should run the football, establish the run, open some other things up. And I obviously wasn't crazy because the offensive coordinator came out publicly and told the media this morning that his plan sucked, that they should have run the football early. Now, I'm torn because part of me is proud. Part of me is proud in the work that I do, the information that I give to all of you. It's a proud moment to be proven, quote unquote, right. The other part of me is frightened. Why do I have a better plan than the offensive coordinator? That should not be happening. I should not look at a team and understand that the way that you can succeed offensively, especially given the offensive line situation, is to run the football early and to attack that run defense that also did not have CJ Mosley, by the way. If I know that, how in the hell does Alex Van Pelt not know that? That is crazy to me. That he looked at last night's game and said, well, we should have run the ball earlier. We should have maybe ran and then got into our play action stuff because, hey, maybe it wasn't a great idea to be running under center play action when David Andrews was questionable, Owenu was questionable. You just got a mash unit up front. That is frightening. I mean, I give Van Pelt an A for honesty, but that is frightening. That a little old podcast, the Nick Cattle Show, on Wednesday before the game could tell you that they should run the ball early, and the offensive coordinator decides to do the opposite and then comes out on Friday after the game and says, you know what, we should have run the football early. That's bad when a podcaster is telling you what they should do and the offensive coordinator does the opposite. And then comes out and says, I should have done what was said on those podcasts. Kyle Kirk, torch him. Doing my best. Steve with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you. Thank you for all the super chats. That's brutal from Alex Van Pelt. You got two rookies, Michael Jordan on the offensive line to start this game. The two best linemen that you have, Owenu had a bad game last week. He's banged up. And then you have, David Andrews going in with a beat up hip. And you're like, let's run some long developing plays. Let's run some play action. That's enough on AVP. Let's get to Covington because he wasn't much better. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Help a brother out. Let's beat this algorithm one step at a time. Trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. We are less than 100 away from that. DeMarcus Covington last night. Of his blitzes stunk out loud. And I talked about this on the pod Wednesday. Teams were not blitzing Aaron Rodgers a lot. Rodgers did not have great numbers against the blitz. But teams, the first 2 weeks, defensive coordinators walked in against the Jets and said, we are not going to blitz Rodgers a lot because Rodgers has the experience. He knows what you're going to do. He can pick you apart pre-snap, and he's going to make your life miserable. Well, what happened last night? Rodgers picked him apart. Andrew Callahan wrote about this on Twitter. The Patriots plan to be a more aggressive defense, new pressures, and creative blitzes. Their blitz package has been getting smoked the last two games. Against Seattle, the Seahawks had a 69% offensive success rate against the blitz. They averaged over 13 yards a play and had a touchdown. Awful numbers. Against the Jets last night, the Jets, against the Patriots blitz, had a 77% offensive success rate, which is bananas. They average over 9 yards a play, and they scored not one, but 2 touchdowns against the blitz. Callahan writes, the problem here isn't the Patriots are blitzing a ton and getting burned. Their highest single-game blitz rate is just 27%. But they're reserving these blitzes for high-leverage situations, red zone, third down, fringe of field goal range, and quarterbacks are IDing it, and they're killing it. So Covington is becoming predictable. He's becoming predictable with his blitz calls, the timing of the blitz calls. If you are on third down, if you're in the red zone, if you're on the fringe of field goal range, if you're the offensive coordinator of the opposition, you are banking on DeMarcus Covington calling a blitz in those scenarios. The Jets were ready for it. Rodgers was ready for it. They obviously watched the film of the Seattle game, and they said, hey, look, on third down in the red zone, and when we're in field goal range, we're on that fringe area, they're going to blitz. Be ready for a blitz. And Rodgers was ready for the blitzing. He diagnosed it, and he ripped you to shreds over and over and over again. And this is a big issue for DeMarcus Covington because you can't get a pass rush with your four-man, right? We talked about that on an earlier podcast this week. Four-man pass rush has been non-existent for this football team. So you're trying to scheme up pressure by blitzing. Well, your blitzing has become incredibly predictable timing-wise. And so now when you blitz, you're not successful blitzing. So you can't get a four-man pass rush, and you're not successful blitzing the quarterback. You're pretty screwed. Not ideal, as they say. King Cato's back. Haven't seen King Cato in a while. King Cato 21, $5 super chat. Does playing May out there when he did keep him from getting cocky and thinking he could have done more than Brissett if he started? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think May would get cocky. I don't read him as somebody who would get cocky. He's confident. I don't think he's a cocky dude. He understands his lot in life right now. I don't think you got to worry about his personality. I thought it was, as I said earlier in the podcast, it was borderline irresponsible to play May when they played him. Given the state of the offensive line last night, you had two guys leave the game due to injury, so you had to go even deeper into your bench for the offensive line. I thought it was outrageous, down by 3 touchdowns. Run the football, get off the field. Get out of there. Thank you, King Cato. Appreciate the $5 super chat. Another issue with the Patriots defense last night, they played too much man coverage. Something else we talked about on the podcast. On Wednesday, we talked about how teams were playing, a good amount of zone versus Rodgers. They weren't blitzing a lot, and they were playing zone. And last night, Patriots played a decent amount of man coverage, and they blitzed in predictable situations. They got shredded. Here's the problem with the Patriots when they play man against certain teams. Their cornerbacks are not large individuals. Jonathan Jones is not a big guy. Obviously, Marcus Jones is not a big guy. They tried to put Alex Austin out there last night to give him a little bit of size, and Austin got torched, missed a tackle, which we'll get to in a minute. So the problem is when you run man coverage and you've got smaller corners, what did Rodgers do? Rodgers just threw the football right off the snap to his big receivers and said, run through the dude. And that's what they did. Manhandle, play physical, just run right through that cornerback. So you played man coverage against big receivers like Mike Williams and Alan Lazard. Christian Gonzalez was fine last night. That touchdown, look, that's a fantastic throw by Aaron Rodgers. If that's 85% of quarterbacks, 90% of quarterbacks in the league, that could be a pick six. Gonzalez was fine last night. He's the least of your issues. Trust me. But the Joneses, they're not big dudes. And Rodgers took advantage of that. You were small playing man, and it didn't work. You also relied on Kyle Duggar against tight ends in between the 20s. Terrible idea. Duggar does not consistently defend tight ends. We know that. He has given up some big plays against tight ends. In week 1, you had Jalen Hawkins playing tight ends. Last night, I thought Duggar and the linebackers, they struggled in coverage. It wasn't great. Another issue the Patriots have, and we saw this last night, we saw it against Seattle, starting to become a problem. Lack of discipline in the pass rush. These pass rushers, they're getting too far downfield. Sometimes they're going inside when they need to stay outside, and they're opening up lanes on the outside. They're not containing the edge, and that happened against Rodgers last night. You had the pass rush. On a number of occasions, guys decided to go inside. Rodgers saw it. He went outside, and he picked up first downs by running. He extended plays and murdered you by throwing the football on the run. So a lack of discipline in the pass rush has backfired the last 2 weeks. It backfired against Geno Smith, and it backfired last night against Aaron Rodgers. They have to be more disciplined. They have to be more disciplined in the pass rush. G-Reg, can we talk about the real elephant in the room? May called Aaron Rodgers the GOAT last night. That's more unforgivable than our offensive line play. Yeah, he's young. He's young. Young people make mistakes. Not great. What do you say? I mean, it's ill-informed. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is not the greatest quarterback of all time. Maybe Drake was trying to be extra nice. Maybe he misspoke. Maybe he got a little ahead of himself. The excitement in meeting Aaron Rodgers. Not great. James jumps in with a super chat. Nick, what about getting, I'm guessing Javon Baker. Javon Baker out there, talented receiver despite his early drops and preseason off-field issues. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not against it at this point, but I think you've got bigger issues with the offensive line. So I don't know how much of a difference Baker could make, but look, the way this passing offense is playing, I don't think it could hurt. Can't hurt getting him a handful of snaps, right? Booty and Baker were active last night. Booty had a catch later on in the game, right? But Baker pretty much persona non grata. I'm not against it. I don't hate the idea. I mean, get ready for the drops and get ready for the up and down play. But like I said, it can't be worse. I don't mind the idea, James. I'd give it a shot. I would give it a shot. All right. Other issues. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, and review. You can help us out. Take a second of your time. Doesn't cost you any money to just give us that thumbs up and to throw a comment in. Say hello. Tell me why you're infuriated. Let me know if you disagree with me about the Drake May thing. Missed tackles. Obviously, big problem last night. Everybody watching could see it. The first half was an abomination. And it's surprising because this defense, their recent history, the last couple years, the Patriots have literally been one of the best tackling teams in all of football. Now, you could certainly say some of it was Thursday Night Football, playing overtime on Sunday, short turnaround, physically not really being at the level. You could also say some of it was you were missing Jawan Bentley and you had some problems at linebacker. But the missed tackles last night, it was an epidemic across the entire defense. And it was tough to watch. Against the Jets last night, the Patriots had more missed tackles in the first half than they had against Cincinnati and Seattle combined. More missed tackles in the first half than the prior two games combined. And this is a team that's been good. I mean, Andrew Callahan posted, by total missed tackles, the Patriots just had their second worst tackling game since late in the 2020 season. So literally, that was the second worst tackling game that we've seen from this football team in the last 4 years. It was that bad. And Mike Giardi posted that the Patriots defense, they gave up 100 additional yards because of their missed tackles. They gave up 100 additional yards last night to that offense just from missed tackles. Not good enough. Not nearly good enough. Not even competitive. And what drove me crazy is you're watching that game last night, and the Patriots had tons of opportunities to make plays. I mean, how many times in that first half did the Patriots have somebody in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage in perfect position to make a tackle? And how many times did that guy who was in that position blow the tackle? 5, 6, 7 times in that first half? Everybody was guilty. Cornerbacks missing tackles, linebackers missing tackles, Anthony Jennings missing the tackle on the goal line play to Breece Hall. Didn't wrap him up. Breece Hall kind of ran right through him and stumbled to the goal line and scored. I mean, it was an equal opportunity missed tackle kind of night. But they were in position a lot. I mean, the opportunity to make big plays was there last night for that defense. And the missed tackles just killed them. Just absolutely killed them. Not having Jawan Bentley hurt. Now, it's not the difference between winning and losing that game. Not even close. But Jawan Bentley would have helped last night. And his absence last night was obvious watching that football game. The run defense had been excellent the first 2 weeks. The run defense was atrocious. Now, if you look at the stats, you might believe it wasn't that bad, but don't forget the Jets pretty much ran the clock out for all intents and purposes. And, they racked up some carries, and the Patriots were able to come up with some stops late in the second half when the game was over. The first 2.5 quarters, 3 quarters, the Jets did whatever they wanted to do running the football. And a lot has to do with Jawan Bentley. Bentley coming downhill, finding those gaps, and smashing running backs. Jelani Tavai is a good football player, but he doesn't fit Bentley's strengths. And not having Bentley out there hurt. Now, Bentley's not great in coverage. I thought last night, coverage in the middle of the football field was also bad. Safeties and linebackers were lost. I mean, Conklin had almost like 100 yards last night. What are we doing? That should never happen. So middle of the field coverage was way too soft. It was bad. Rodgers just looked off the safety, boom, middle of the field. Look off the safety, middle of the field. I don't know if the communication was bad. Tavai had the dot. Duggar did not have the dot. You could have had some communication issues with Bentley not out there. So Bentley's absence no doubt hurt the defense and really hurt their run defense, which made it almost impossible because you had Aaron Rodgers playing great. You can't get a pass rush on Rodgers. When you do, your pass rush discipline sucks. Now you can't stop the run. You're missing all sorts of tackles. I'll get to Rodgers in a minute. Terry jumps in. $19.99 super chat. I'll just call it a $20 super chat. I just want to see a better game next week. Effort and game plan. Have a nice weekend, all. Yeah, Terry, I think all of us want to see a better game next week. Going against San Francisco, flying across the country, that's not going to be easy. The one silver lining is you do get that quote-unquote mini bye playing on Thursday night. So hopefully they're able to get a little bit more healthy. But Bentley's not coming back for a long time if he comes back this year. We'll see what happens with the offensive line. We don't know how serious Vidarian Lowe's knee injury is. We don't know how serious Caden Wallace's knee injury is. Maybe City So can get back. But it's rough. It's an awful watch last night. We all feel the same. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate the super chat as always. Generosity, speaking volumes. All right, so Rodgers, give him his flowers. He was pretty spectacular last night. And I said on Wednesday, and I was wrong. Don't expect Aaron Rodgers to be too mobile. Don't expect him to, extend plays with his legs. Don't expect him to run for first downs. Don't expect him to look comfortable moving around. Wrong. Last night he looked really comfortable. However, I will point out that Jake Assman, who has his own podcast and follows the Jets and does great work, he tweeted out last night that he was shocked how Rodgers looked and that Rodgers did not look that way through the first 2 weeks. He did not look comfortable running. He did not look very mobile. So even the Jets guys are like, where'd that come from? So Rodgers was much more mobile than I expected him to be. He was running around, making life miserable. His pre-snap reads, he picked apart the defense, he diagnosed, he knew exactly what the Patriots wanted to do and how they wanted to do it, and he made them pay for it over and over and over again. In breakers constantly, right? Ridiculous accuracy. That throw to Garrett Wilson for the touchdown in the corner of the end zone near the pylon was it was bananas. It was a crazy throw. Crazy throw. Just not many guys can make that throw. Gonzalez had damn good coverage. That was just a great throw. So Rodgers was on one last night. Tip of the cap to him. All right, let's give you some ugly stats. You ready? The Jets were 10 for 15 on third down. The Patriots were 2 for 11 on third down. Patriots had 139 total yards. Breaking news, that's not going to get it done. Time of possession, 2-1 in favor of the Jets. The Jets had the football last night for 40 freaking minutes. The Patriots had it for 20. Goes back to not running the football for whatever reason. Ramondre Stevenson, fumble. He's been loose with the ball through the first couple weeks. You just felt like it was only a matter of time. He coughed it up last night. It's only one game. It was a brutal game to watch. It was awful across the board. Not much redeeming about it. Keon White played pretty well. Christian Gonzalez played well. And Pop Douglas got involved. Those are really the only three things that you could say about last night's game that, you could take away as somewhat of a positive. Everything else was trash. Trash, and more trash. The concern is the offensive line. And the concern is the offensive line's health. Not only their level of play leading into last night, but the fact that they can't get the guys they want out there on the field. And I don't know if that's going to change. I don't know if City So wakes up this week and is ready to play. Like I said, I don't know about Lowe and Wallace's knee. I don't know what's going on with Michael Jordan, who played actually pretty well the first couple weeks. And Michael Wenu's been an issue the last 2 weeks at right tackle. So I'd like to sit here and say it's only one game, but the offensive line, I don't know how it gets better. I mean, you are now asking practice squad guys and second and third string guys to do something. They are thin up front. I never know if it's Dido or Ditto. S Ditto 62 $10 super chat. Thank you. Enjoy the weekend. Not much else to say. Have we not looked at 1-3 each year since 2019? It's exactly where I thought we would be. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I had the team being 1-3 through the first month of the season. I had them losing a tight one to Cincinnati, winning a tight one to Seattle. Against Seattle, of course, they won the tight one against Cincinnati and lost the tight one to Seattle. Last night's game was surprising. I did not think it was going to be as dominant of a performance by the Jets. But again, I thought defensively and offensively, the Patriots would approach that game differently. They didn't, and they paid for it. Not to say that I'm a know-it-all or anything, but I mean, the things that we laid out on Wednesday's podcast of what teams did well and what the Jets didn't do well and how the Patriots could attack them, the Patriots pretty much went opposite night. They decided to go 180 and do everything different, and they paid for it. They got beat down. And now they'll have a long break to think about it, the mini bye. And hopefully they figure some things out. All right, everybody, enjoy your weekend. Be great. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. We continue to build momentum, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. We're less than 100 away from that. If you like what we do here, if you enjoy the chats, if you enjoy, interacting with people with this podcast, we're going to keep on doing it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Like, comment, subscribe. That's how we drive traffic. That's how we beat the algorithm. Everybody have a great weekend. Be safe, be responsible, but certainly enjoy yourself. This has been the Nick Cattle Show.